Hi, my name is Jemmy Lee. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about the last book of the Maid series. You know, I reviewed The Sweetest of Vivian, I reviewed The Madness Obsession, and now I am going to talk about my thoughts on The Darkest Temptation. It is the third book of the Maid series, written by Daniel Laurie, and I do have some thoughts. I liked it. I think I gave this one, at first, I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars, but thinking back on it, I like it more than I initially thought. So I do give it like 4 stars. I really liked this book, but in a very conflicted way. Like, a lot of the things that happen in it I don't feel is romantic, but it's a dark romance. It's a mafia book. She literally gets kidnapped and falls in love with her kidnapper. So it's not a book for everybody, but if you're into dark romance or mafia romance, I think you would really enjoy this book. This man does really, really horrible things to the main character. The only thing I really wish they had more of in this book is the internal monologue of Ronan, who is the main guy in this book. I feel like if we had more of his internal thought process and like his confliction between his feelings for Mila and also being her kidnapper and like seeing that like conflict within him, I probably would have liked this book a lot more. But you still see it in the subtleties of the actions that he does and what goes on in the book. So anyways, that's kind of like a little gist. I said all of that before I even talked about what the book is about. So sorry about that. What this book is about, it follows Ronan and Mila'S love story, basically. So Mila is a girl who is very, very hidden. I think she's like 18. Honestly, I don't know her age, but I just know she's very young. She's naive, and she lives in Florida, and she's been protected for most of her life. Like, she doesn't really get out much. She wants an exciting life, and her past is full of mystery. Like, she just doesn't know anything about her past, and her dad is never around. And she lives in this like big house in Florida, and they never let her really leave or like understand about her past or like her life, you know, and her dad just doesn't tell her because her dad is part of the mafia. And she has expectations at home in Miami, and she's supposed to marry this like guy, but she just wants a life of excitement and doesn't want to like marry this guy. So what she does is she knows she's from Russia, or her dad is like Russian or something. I don't know. So she goes to Russia like on a whim and escapes her house in Florida to find out more about her past, find out about her dad, just understand like about her life. So she goes to Russia, and when she lands in Russia, her dad calls her and is like, don't trust anybody, like, blah, 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 like, it's very dangerous out there. And she hears about this guy named the Devil, and she's like, oh, who's this devil guy? She meets this guy named Ronan, and Ronan, like, saves her, quote-unquote, saves her. Trigger warning, sorry. There's a lot of, like, sexual assault and stuff in this book. From a guy who's, like, attacking her. He takes her in, saves her, and then you find out that Ronan is actually the devil, quote-unquote the devil, because he is the main mob boss of Russia. So most of this book takes place in Russia, and you find out that that guy that was attacking Mila in Russia and that Ronan saved her from was actually sent by Ronan to attack her, but not like sexually assault her and stuff. But that guy did it anyway. Anyways, that's besides the point. He kidnaps her and uses Mila as like a threat for her dad, because her dad is like part of the mafia like an opposing group, I think. Honestly, it's been so long since I read this, so I'm so sorry if I'm like off with my information, but an opposing group from the Russian like mafia, whatever. So basically the story is kind of like an enemies to lovers, like they're or like star-crossed lovers kind of, because Ronan is not supposed to like Mila because he hates her dad, but I mean, he's very sexually attracted to her, and when they first meet, you know, she's like throwing herself at him because he's hot, you know? And it's an age gap romance because he's like in his 30s, like he's like 30 something and she's barely 18 or something, so I think it's like a 10 to 15 year age gap or something. It has insta-love vibes. She's vegan, but I think there was like a part of the book where she like cheats on dairy. Literally, she's me. Because I'm vegan, but sometimes I cheat with dairy, but like, we're not gonna talk about that. She's very like ethical, you know, and the subtleties that you get in this book that are romantic is that she's vegan, so everything that they eat when she's kidnapped is vegan food. Ronan always cooks vegan food for her. It's a Stockholm syndrome-y type of romance. It's a Beauty and the Beast-esque, you know? He's the beast, she's the beauty. They always talk about happily for nows. Christian and Gianna from the Madness Session comes back in this book with their daughter, and oh my god, they're so cute. They are so cute in this book, and it just gave me all of the butterflies, all of the feels for that. Ronan basically hates everybody. He's literally horrible, and he cares for Mila, but like he doesn't want to admit it to himself. That's why I wish there was more internal monologue from Ronan so that I can really feel like his confliction and like wanting to love her and stuff. And all of the romantic things are really, really subtle. You know, I was all over TikTok and people were really like trying to justify why they liked Ronan because he did some horrible things. Like, for example, he basically SA'd her, like he sexually assaulted her because he recorded the first time that they were intimate with each other on, like, he recorded it without her consent and sent it to her dad to watch. Like, that is, you know, not ethical in any way, but he also is really nice to her because he doesn't like to, like, this is like very explicit, but he doesn't like to eat girls out. He's never really done that. He doesn't really like doing that, but she is a virgin and he keeps trying to tell him that she's a virgin, but since she was throwing herself at him for like half of the book, he doesn't believe her and he always calls Mila a liar. And he's like, you're not a virgin, you're a liar. And he just, you know, really, really rough with her. He was really rough with her the first time. And he's just like, oh, and she's very like, you know, bloody down there. And then after that, he does like some aftercare and eats her out. But she's all bloody and shit. I'm like, okay. Very graphic, but low-key romantic. And it's kind of like those subtle, and like he does that for her when he doesn't even like to eat people out, but she's literally bloody and he would eat her out. You know, like it's small things like that that build up to an accumulation of like, this is romantic. That's what I'm saying, is that this is like a very, very dark romance. It's definitely not for everybody, but if you get over those facts of like the way that he literally kind of tortures her, he left her out, Ronan left her out in the cold, in the Russian cold, to like freeze from hypothermia. I forgot why he did that. He was just like mad at her for something. 10 minutes later, he like feels bad about it and brings her back in. But it's so funny on TikTok. Everyone keeps like trying to justify his actions. But it's just hilarious. I don't know. They're like, yeah, so what? So what, Rick? So what if he's the devil? At least the devil has a job. At least he's active in the community. What do you do? Like that sound? And people always use that on him because he's literally the devil of Russia. This is what I feel like is great about this book, is that you can kind of see, even though they're kind of like opposites attract, because she's very like bright and like ethical and he's like evil, you know, is that you can see why they fit with each other, because she didn't know anything about her life, but then once she went to Russia, he opens her up to like knowing about her past and like who she was and who her mom was, because she had no idea who her mom was. And Ronan informs Mila that her mom was way worse than her dad is. her mom was like an evil villain type of situation, and her family sex trafficked women, and it was just like, I don't know, it's just like this whole thing of like Ronan, after meeting Ronan, Mila finally gets that exciting life that she wanted and gets to explore and like know about her past that she didn't know about before. And I like that he does that for her, and he gives her that exciting life that she wanted. I didn't talk about it in this video, but what I meant to say was that because of Ronan really opening up to Mila and telling her about her family and letting her know all of these things, he's really opening her up to the world. And also, I love the discussion between the world not being black and white, you know? They're always talking about how life is always morally gray. Like, maybe Ronan is called the devil, he's supposed to be the villain of the story, right? But in reality, even though he does villainous things, it doesn't mean that he's an all-around bad guy, that every single thing he's gonna do is just black, you know, like in this black and white world that Mila in her whole life has been thinking about, because she's like this vegan, super ethical. He really like educates her basically by saying like, you know, you look at things in black and white, but in reality, everything is gray. It's just mixtures of gray. And I really love that. And that's the reason why I feel like they also fit. Another thing that I forgot to add is that in the end of the book, I feel like they try, or Daniel Laurie tries to retract this like idea of Stockholm Syndrome, because they always talk about it in the book like, oh, you're Stockholm Syndroming me, you know, they're making it as a joke. But to really solidify that the love is not Stockholm Syndrome is that he lets her leave, she lives her own life for 4 months, and I feel like that maybe is trying to justify like her actually loving him instead of it being Stockholm Syndrome. Like those 4 months that she is away from Ronan and doesn't really have contact with him is the book's way of saying this is real love and this is not Stockholm Syndrome. So I kind of like that. Like, it gives the reader no excuse to say this is not her real mind at work here and that she actually loves him. I thought this was cute. It was cute. It was a slow burn romance. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It is not a romance for everybody, but I did enjoy it. I think if I were to reread it, I would enjoy it a lot more. It does get slow towards the middle of the book, but I feel like with every single one of the books in these series, all the books feel that way. Like, it kind of gets slow in the middle. But I think that's when you're also developing that relationship between the couples. And I really like this one. I really like this couple. If I'm going to rank the couples of these 3 books in the Maid series, I would rank Christian and Gianna my number 1, Mila and Ronan my number 2. Also, this is kind of off topic too, but people were really hating on the character of Mila and saying that she was like annoying and stuff all over social media as well. But I personally related to her, and I can totally see why her character is the way she is. So I don't understand the hate for her. But anyways, yeah. Mila and Ronan are my number 2, and then Elena and Nico are my least favorite. I feel like maybe if I reread The Sweetest Oblivion, I would like it more. I feel like all these books really have great rereading quality, and they're all kind of slow burnish. This last book, The Darkest Temptation, is the most mafia you will get out of any of these books. Like, the first book, The Sweetest Temptation, feels more like a sexual tension slow burn. I didn't really get the mafia vibe as much, except when they're like killing people every now and then, but it just felt like a big Italian family, and then they talk here and there about mafia, but I just didn't really feel the like actual inner workings of what it's like to be in the mafia and stuff like that. So I didn't really get that vibe. The last book, The Darkest Temptation, you get mafia. That is like the most mafia-ass mafia book you will ever get. You know, she's like kidnapped, she's like, they talk about like enemies and like, it's very mafia. Sweetest Oblivion is more like a slow burn, and then Madis's Session gives me rom-com vibes, but like dark rom-com. I don't know why. I think it's just like the formatting of it. But yeah, that's kind of like how I rank these books. So if you ever read any of these books, if you've read the series, please let me know your thoughts. If you haven't read it and you're into dark romance, please read it, because I actually do think they are really like entertaining books to read, and these are really like interesting couples to read about. Just when you're going in and like reading it, just expect it to be a little slower, expect it to have a lot of tension. And yeah, that is my review on the entire Maid series and the last book, The Darkest Temptation. I can't wait for the next book to come out. Is there a next book? I think there is a next book, and I cannot wait till it comes out. I am so excited for it. And yeah, I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. Leave comments below and subscribe, please. I will see you in the next video.